Test, test, test. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, everyone. This video has been cut down from the Morales page. His hour and some minute video is now down to 40 minutes. This is an interview with Billy. I just received a shot. Hayes. And he is in the hospital. We got to pray for this man and make sure that we put good vibes out for him. Always better vibes. But take a listen to his interview, which has been broken down and lots of gaps have been taken out so that you can listen to it fluidly. I told my DLive fam that this video is going to come up with transcription, but I'm hitting a snag with that, and hopefully the captions will come up via our wonderful tube. So without further ado, I'm just going to say a few things to throw, what do we call it? We will call it we'll call it the back burner, okay? Some back burner. So in the back burner, so that we throw them off, I'm just going to say Beef Tanaka. This is, you can order from Beef Tanaka, but you want to order Beef Nagamaki. And when you order Beef Nagamaki, you will get beef, and you will get like this scallion type cool green stuff in this great sauce. Beef Nagamaki from Beef Tanaka. Beef Tanaka is the place to be. Beef Tanaka, order Beef Nagamaki. So these types of things we say to start this interview off because it is that important, right? So the background gets to hear Beef Tanaka and Beef Nagamaki. Ha 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 ha. I was also told you're supposed to laugh. Ha ha ha. I love to laugh. Ha 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 ha. Loud and long and clear. I love to laugh. Ha 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 ha. It makes the air smell very weird. And we all know why the air smells weird, don't we? Okay, it's not beef. Well, it is Beef Tanaka's fault giving us the Beef Nagamaki. And you know what I'm talking about now. Maybe. Anyway, this was just to throw off the background burners off. That makes sense. I wonder how many of you actually get what I just did. Doesn't matter. Much love, always better. Listen to this quick interview.
All right, guys, welcome in. Welcome back to Above Ground World News. We got some a bunch of little things to get into, and then we're going to bring a guest on. We're going to bring an expert on. We're going to bring on somebody that actually worked on the Haarp facility. He also worked with the father of the weaponized weather. He worked with Ben Livingston. So we'll get into that here in just a minute. Now I'm looking here on the GOES 16, and the amount of particulates that are being deployed in this is just insane, man. And I put the link in there for this video. Oh, let me change the thing here. And this guy's talking about, this is the grandfather of the weather warfare right here. But he was talking about when you want to grow a hurricane, you have to seed it in a certain side, or it has an opposite effect. But what it does when you grow the hurricane, it makes the winds not as strong. But like I said, we're going to bring in an expert in here. This won't be coming from me. It'll be coming from somebody that actually built the Hart facility. So we'll call him here in a minute. Just wanted to show you this stratospheric warming going on. We've been seeing it on the Earth now, and now the mainstream starting to talk about the Australian mainstream, calling it a rare weather event over the Antarctica, driving Australia's hot, dry outlook. Now it's happening down here, the opposite of what happened to us over the winter with the polar vortex. So this is going to lead to the East Coast is bracing for catastrophic brush fires again. So heads up down in Australia, incoming fires. Now we had Australian survivors describe the ocean swallowing the Bahamas Islands. Now, anybody with common sense can look at these tracks of this Hurricane Dorian, and know something's not right. It's not natural. Darwin's sewage plant releases black and evil-looking flume near marine reservoir. Now, this is down in Australia too. But, they always say this stuff is not harmful, but then it turns out to be, just wiping everything out. We got another article here on the stratospheric controlled perturbation experiment. I talked a little bit about this last night, but like I said, we're going to try to bring on somebody here. Let me see if I can call him and see if he'll join the show.
Hello?
We got you. Welcome back, Billy.
Okay, we're here.
I ran out of Skype funds, man. I had to pop. You know how they are. Well, anyway, welcome back to the show, guys. We'll jump right into this. Anyway, I was talking to you earlier on the phone, and we were talking about this anomaly I found before the hurricane got parked there in the Bahamas. You want to kind of talk about that a little bit, or actually start out and let people know, a little bit of your background there, so they know who we're talking to.
Okay, well, I see you got the picture of it up there. I'm waiting for the streak to come through. Comes out, goes to the lower part of the hurricane as it's moving into Florida. This streak represents an electrostatic charged atmosphere that it's charged up just like the inside of a vacuum tube, electron vacuum tube. You heat up the air in the area. It excites the electrons that are in that area. Then when you shoot a signal or a pulse through it, it acts like an amplifier. This amplifier, as it picks up current, it tends to bend, and it will come in a straight line, and then it will, towards the end, it picks up more speed, more power, and it turns to the left. In this case, it'd be our right, its left, and it curves downward towards the equator. This creates an ionized atmosphere that causes any function coming in, whether it be a low frontal system or frontal system. It draws it, and it establishes a wall, a pathway for a frontal system to move in towards a target. It's more or less a pathway, a guide, where they want to take a frontal system to. In this case, if the frontal system comes in, it starts to block the area of this hurricane coming in, blocks it in such a way it hits like a cue ball. It's a billiard ball. It bounces off. And in this case, the hurricane hit that frontal system, the edge of that frontal system, and turns and went north. It also causes it to hold it in place. If you got equal frontal systems above and below, then you're kind of stuck in the middle. This is what happened to that hurricane. It had a high and high on either side of it. It forced it to stop in its tracks. Did I explain that good enough for you there, Michael?
Yeah, we need to let people know, you actually built the Haarp facility, or you put up all the antennas. Why don't you let everybody know a little bit about your background, and how you worked with Ben Livingston, that story on that and all that. Kind of give everybody a little background.
Okay, Bernard Eastland came to me back in 1989, and he wanted me to see what I could do with some ham antennas and check them out. And I took him to Sacramento, and we tested them at the Tampo Products antenna farm out there. We tested out 24 antenna systems, and we came up with a quad that was designed by ham, and Tampo made up kits for us, and they sent them up to Alaska, which I didn't know I was going to become part of. And a contract came for DNR towers to put up some towers, and I was assigned to go with this company. In 1991, we started putting up a system there, just for antennas, and that turned out to be the beginning of ARCO, Hart, and it just went from there. All of a sudden, there was a contract come up later on. They didn't want this 4 antennas. They wanted 16. Then they wanted 32. And all of a sudden, we were building our antennas right and left, which came up to what Haarp is today. And now they're talking about rebuilding Haarp at lower power but higher ERP, meaning more antennas but lower power. Because now it's been taken over by UAF, Universal University of Alaska Fairbanks. No longer a military establishment, although the military has regulatory authority over Haarp. The Haarp is no longer on the old Haarp military frequencies. It has a maximum output that they have to abide by now. Before, the military had it, and there was no regulation of how much power they could put out. Now it is assigned by the FCC because it's no longer a military experiment. It is a university experiment. And before, the Air Force and the Navy and DARPA turned over Hart to UAF. They went out and pulled all the PA tubes out and took them out and buried them in the snow.
Wow.
So when UAF took over the city, they couldn't find all the tubes. And they'll never find enough tubes to make the whole system work. So they'll never go full power ever again. But they don't need to. The experimentations that came out of Haarp have developed the Haarp technology. The Haarp technology is what's being used today. No longer do they have to use ionosphere, which the ionosphere was damaged by Haarp. It tore holes in it. It tore big holes in it. It ripped up the ionosphere in such a way that the Earth is no longer protected completely by the ionosphere. As the ionosphere rolls by, there are big holes in it now, which lets the sun activity patter to the Earth's crust. Now they've been trying to band-aid the old ionosphere with the same thing that they're chemtrailing, chemically readjusting the atmosphere. They're shooting sounding rockets and have been for some time, putting sounding rockets into the outer space edge to fall back into the ionosphere and cover up some of these ionospheric holes.
Wow.
A band-aid of such. Well, all this stuff that's they're putting in space, eventually, due to centrifugal force of the Earth rotating, it will formulate back into the equator and still be airborne or spaceborne, but it will come to a band around the equator, and we will start having what will look like the rings of Saturn.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Just as on the lower atmosphere, due to the chemical additions of nanoparticulates of aluminum, barium, and all this other stuff they're throwing in the sky to make the sky gray instead of black. You have to remember, all the fuels that were used by aircraft in the past created a black dust, soot.
Just what I talked about last night.
They're expelling, oh, you did?
Yep.
Now they're expelling a white dust, which is creating a gray atmosphere. Never again will we ever see a true blue sky. It's gone forever.
Yeah, they said they were going to turn the blue sky white, and that's what they're doing.
Well, this chemical that they're putting into our atmosphere, which everybody talks about chemtrails, and I prefer not to even talk about chemtrails. We've been seeing them for 20 years, so what? Let's talk about the chemical atmosphere that these chemtrails turn into. This chemical atmosphere, because it has metal components to it and insulators, it can be purged to act as a battery to hold charges, electrostatic charges. And if it's in motion, if you take a wire and pass it to a magnetic field, each in that wire develops a positive on one side and a negative on the other side. Then when you pull the wire backwards through that magnetic field, it changes the opposite direction. This is called AC, by the way. So if you have a continuous conductor up in the air and the Earth is moving and these flux lines of the magnetosphere pass through, then you're creating a generator. Now, if you have a storm like a tornado or a lot of wind pushing a cloud of this stuff through the same thing, then you have another generator, a wind generator, and it's creating an AC current as it passes through each one of these flux lines. If you take a hurricane and look at a hurricane, what you're seeing is a schematic. This is so simple. When you look at a hurricane, you are seeing a schematic of two things, a generator and an electric motor, depending on how it is loaded. If you put a current through the center to the top, you have a motor. If you pick off the energy that comes off each one of the bands, then you have air. If you have dust that is floating through the air and it is creating friction, then you have a static generator. Well, a hurricane is capable of being all three. You can turn it like a motor and create the motion that a hurricane has. So round, 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 round. Or you can have it as a generator. Once it starts and nature's motion keeps it going and the highs and the lows come in and affect it, you can establish where this motor goes or this generator goes and how much output it has and how big it can get. If you turn it fast enough, it throws out these bands way, way out. If you slow down, the bands come through. If you get on a merry-go-round, the closer you get to the center, the less pull you have on your body. This is considered the high point of the merry-go-round. If you stand right in the middle, you can ride it all day without getting thrown off. Once you start getting dizzy, though, you know what's going to happen. You start leaking to the edge, and off the merry-go-round you go. So this is basically what you're looking at when you're looking at a hurricane.
Yeah. Now
the faster it goes,
you brought up an interesting
the
thing.
more go ahead.
You brought up an interesting thing about the lightning when they parked the hurricane over the Bahamas. You want to kind of get into that a little bit, what you were seeing on that?
Oh, yeah. With all hurricanes, if you look in the upper right-hand quadrant, which is the most considered the dangerous part of a hurricane, that's where all the wind force, it stretches that hurricane out towards that direction, that it's throwing out all this energy. Well, that energy is electrified. And if you look at your lightning maps when you're watching a hurricane, you will see all the lightning is in the outer band of that hurricane in that quadrant. And if you look twice that distance from the eye, where the outer band is, where all the lightning is, if you go twice that distance, you will see another band out there that's way far away from the hurricane itself. But it will be active with all this lightning. Without that lightning, you have no electrical motion. That can go round and round. When that lightning stops, the hurricane stops dead in its tracks. If there's a balance between the inner band and the upper band of lightning, the hurricane goes west. Once you increase that difference between the inner band and the outer band, then the storm goes to your right, to the east. So you can actually manipulate the direction of the hurricane and the speed by how much difference is between those two electrical charges of lightning. Once that lightning disappears, the hurricane stops in its footpath. This is what we saw when it came up south of the Bahamas. When it totally stopped for 32, 38 hours, I think it was, the lightning stopped. As soon as the lightning started initiating again, the whole system started moving again. And then when the balance between the outer band and the way out band, that's not even considered part of the hurricane, because there's nothing there. It's just lightning. Normally there's not even a cloud around. It's just lightning coming out of nowhere. It's an electrical charge in this atmosphere that we have developed, this chemical unbalanced atmosphere that can be charged, electrically, statically charged, to millions and millions and millions of volts and create its own type of lightning. That's why we're seeing all these weird, critical lightning storms. We got whole groups of cattle and sheep and goats all over the world that usually go up on top of hills, by the way, getting struck because there's no real storm around. They feel safe. And there's lightning coming out, this massive lightning that is so punitive by comparison to what normal lightning is. It comes down and just strikes a whole herd, wipes out whole herds of critters.
Yeah,
We're not talking about.
No, I just talked.
But we're talking about what makes up hurricanes. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, I just reported on a whole herd of sheep that got took out yesterday. There's a guy on a motorcycle. Giraffes have been hit. It's just going on everywhere. Like there's nowhere to hide from it.
Yeah, this is what I call the new lightning. It's so shorter than a normal lightning. It's almost as short as, you know what a Sprite is.
Yes.
And a blue.
Yep.
There are lightning that's above our upper atmosphere that are short. They're so short that you normally don't even see it with the naked eye until recently. Now, because of our atmosphere being so fully charged with these this excessive static charge that is in our lower atmosphere, it holds this lightning. Oh, the Sprites are firing at a longer pulse, and they are more visible now. People in Oklahoma are noticing that they can see Sprites over top of Kansas constantly now. People in Oklahoma are looking back around Dodge City, Kansas, at night seeing sprites. And now they're starting to see blues. Well, before, blues could only be seen from the outer space. Now people are seeing a continuous firing of a flash from the lightning over Kansas into a sprite, and then a blue tops it off just for a microsecond. For a microsecond, they think you saw something up there. And just so happens, this is happening over one particular spot in Kansas. It's in Dodge City. Well, there's a Dodge City radar. But around Dodge City are 8 different wind farms whose fiberglass blades, when they churn, create a static charge. For every revolution that blade churns, it makes 3 static pulses that charges the atmosphere above it. When you have thousands and thousands of these wind turbines turning in the air, you are talking about a massive static generator that is charging the atmosphere above it. And with this charging of the atmosphere, you are setting up the propagation of firing off sprites above. When there's enough initial charge in lightning, it falls through by going into outer space, near outer space, and firing off a red lightning right above that white lightning. And if it's strong enough, it will fire into outer space a blue streak. You're going to have to give me a break here. My throat's locking up.
You're actually you're in the hospital, aren't you? You're like joining us from the hospital. Yeah, I mean, like.
No, I'm in the hospital.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
While we were talking, the nurse came in and gave me a shot.
Oh, but yeah,
I wasn't expecting it.
I'll talk for a minute, give you a little break. I want to welcome everybody into the show, and we're talking to Billy Hayes. He helped put in all the antennas at the Haarp array, but I don't think you knew like what they were for, but you did later find out. You also worked way back in the day with the father of weaponizing the weather, and then when you found out what was really going on, but now you're a whistleblower and you're trying to let people know what's actually going on with, like, you can only reveal so much. You can't put out the classified or they'll just take you out. I mean, he tries to release what he can of the knowledge. And that's why a lot of us are getting sick, because we're targeted from all this. I actually had you on the show a couple years ago when I first started, before I got cancer, and I was doing the same thing that I'm doing now, trying to expose, the weather warfare that's going on across the planet, and then suddenly went from super healthy to instantly having prostate cancer so bad that I had to have surgery, and I'm still here. They try to take us out. In fact, we lost a great YouTuber last Wednesday, Vaughn, the Marine 71. We lost him. He just died of cancer last Wednesday. Old Marine 1. His name was Vaughn. Hope his wife Barbara's doing okay now. I mean, that just sucks that she lost him. He used to leave comments on all my videos. He's a great guy. So we just lost him because of cancer. So, I mean, they're taking us all out, man. Prostate cancer is the #1 cause of the death of men, and we're getting it from all kinds of weird stuff. So, but I'm still here, man. I'm still kicking, and I'm going to keep on going until they completely take me out. So that's why I push, man. I work all day.
Well, that makes 2 of us, Mike.
That's right, brother.
That makes 2 of us, Mike. They tried to take me out, and I'm still here. Of course, they tried a good many ways to deal with me. They did put down my whole family. My whole family's gone.
I didn't know if you wanted to bring this up, but you lost a child over weather warfare. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Or
not too long ago, come to this date in September, I lost a child down in Mississippi to a hurricane called Hurricane Camille. My wife had twins, and one of them had a breathing problem. During the hurricane, we lost my cars, my house, and when we lost power, there was no equipment to keep my daughter alive that was in the hospital. We later found out I was reassigned to assist with a program at Eglin, and they were working on a system for aerating spray from the aircraft to be used to lay down a mask of Agent Orange, or at that time we called them rainbow agents. And soon after we got the machinery working, they brought in this gentleman, Mr. Ben Livingston, who had some ideas about chemically applying dry ice and other chemicals to hurricane and other weather fronts to initially create rain or hurricane, or when a hurricane was approached, that we could control portions of it. The tests they had done prior to that, turned out about 1969, were involved with Hurricane Camille, which had taken my daughter.
So you were pretty mad when you found out
And
about
I
it.
knew of this. Yeah, I kind of went nuts with it after that. And it did not make a very good career for me in the Air Force. They canned me. They came up with ways to get rid of people back then in the 70s. And I was one of those. But they did it nicely. I was assigned to Air Force One group. And you remember Kenneth Nixon got coffee spilled on him?
Yeah, not really.
On Air Force One when he was going to China. Well, guess who spilled that coffee?
Was that you?
Yep. Me.
All right. Took one for the team on that one.
Well, no, you can only imagine. I did not spend much time in the Air Force after that. But the information that I've been trained with became a very pliable system that they needed for development of the machine, the Star Wars machine. And when Reagan took over, he wanted that Star Wars machine. And that took on the development of Haarp. And much, much more money than anybody ever knew of was invited to posterize the Haarp machine. Because the Haarp machine didn't consist of just Kakona. It had to have the influence of other units around the world that monitored it, recorded it, added bias to it. Because people who really don't understand is Haarp is just a machine. When you look at an electron, you have a plate, you have heaters, you have an anode, and you have grids. All these things have place in this vacuum tube to create an amplifier or a switch to turn this valve on and off, or open that valve where it lets more power through or voltage through and shuts it off. That's the ideal of electronics. Electronics works on that principle of being able to turn off or increase the input to the amplifier. And that's what the Haarp machine is. Haarp, as people think about it, is just a portion of that machine. You have to be able to keep the ionosphere, the area that they need to use, and then you have to be able to subject electrostatic voltages to it in order to ionize it to the point it's got an electrical battery to it, a high voltage plate compared to a low voltage anode. Then you have to be able to have a grid that controls in between how much goes from this plate to that anode. It turns it off and on or adjusts it to where it's making more or less. This is how Haarp was experimented with. And look at those chemtrails coming out of the tail of that hurricane.
Oh yeah, they're totally they're seeding the south quadrant and the north quadrant. I mean, just big time. It's unbelievable how much particulates.
You have to understand, in order for this machine to work, you're looking at that electrical component I was telling you about, the generator or the motor. Right now, acting as a generator. They're trying to get it to build up by creating these wires going out, which are those streaks you see come out. They'll be all parallel to each other. As they pass through the electromagnetic field made around the world by the magnetosphere, when it passes through, it creates an AC current. And within a hurricane are lines of these. One end will give off the positive sweep of it, the other end will give off the negative sweep. This is like a generator. As the generator passes through the field, one winding picks it up, and the next winding picks it up, and the next winding picks it up. You're looking at the winding of each one in a hurricane. And you notice a hurricane's going one way, and these lines are going the other way. So within this hurricane, you have two options going. You've got an electric motor going one way, and you've got a generator going the other way. It's all there sitting right in front of you, and everybody's just passing over saying, well, that's just Mother Nature. No longer is it just Mother Nature. These hurricanes are nothing like the hurricanes people saw back in the 50s and early 60s. There are new cloud movements within the last 2 decades, and we're the ones looking at it. You're the ones looking at it. You're the ones that need to think about this.
And we also have the CERNs, too, that are part of this. All the particle colliders.
That's right. When CERN fires, its pulses, its magnetic pulses, are 1,000 times, if not 1,000,000 times. They always say it's 1,000 times stronger than the magnetic field of the Earth. That's just for a couple seconds. They're comparing, during that couple seconds, it's stronger than the whole magnetic field of the Earth. No wonder that the magnetic field of the Earth is staying in place. Well, guess what? Ever since they started playing with these particle accelerators, the poles have been moving.
That's
Wonder
right.
why. Every time they fire it up, you can expect a little more movement to the polar centers, the magnetic polar centers. I mean, the North Pole is almost in Russia now.
I know, and as an astrophotographer, you know, like I have to adjust every time I go up now because the North Star is off. Like every time it's in a different spot. You know, it's close, but it's off. That makes a huge difference when you're trying to film something. You know, what might be just a little minute little adjustment in a telescope, man, it's thousands of miles when you go looking at something else.
Well, I'm sorry I got us off this long as I've talked in a year.
Well, I'm glad that we got you on here, so I'll go ahead and take them on over here, and I'm going to take them to the worldview map and show them completely loading the storm up from both sides. Here, I'll start out down here in the south, man. We got major deployment of aerosols. I mean, this is just insane. Look at that X right here. Super nasty looking aerosols being deployed, and this is part of the guidance system, which you just heard. And depending on which side they're seating, it affects, you know, the whole hurricane, the whole motor. But they're spraying both sides of this baby.
I'm going to send you a coordinates in Cuba. You take a look at where they have been firing sounding rockets out in the direction of the Bahamas and Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow.
They're
Yes.
going above Puerto Rico, right over top Arabico Heighten. And when they do, Arabico fires off a multitude of pulses.
Yeah.
And all these rockets are the same rockets that the Russians are using over in Norway.
Exactly.
Remember the Spiral?
Yep.
Well, that was a Russian rocket,
Yeah.
but it was intentional. By firing this rocket in a spiral, they were able to light it up like a TV screen, a high voltage TV screen, by firing electrons at it and making like a picture, like a TV screen, because you had all the basic units there. You had an electrified mask. You had a mask of phosphorus and aluminum oxides that would scatter an electron beam. You fire an electron beam through that, and guess what? It created a light, a phosphoretic light, just like a TV screen.
Yeah, and is that kind of like the Project Bluebeam technology? Is that kind of like what that is, or maybe a version of it?
Absolutely. It's a very basic version of it.
Yeah, and as you were saying,
If you can develop something,
yeah, all I was going to say,
buy something that's airborne, you'll scare the pants out of somebody who's not educated. Now, you tell me if that ain't a war machine.
yeah, that's a war machine. That's a deception machine. You know, that's why they're scared, because if people woke up to what's going on, you know, they can't control. There's way more of us than them. And just like you were talking about Arecibo, that hurricane did like a slingshot right around the Arecibo ionospheric heater. I mean, they weren't going to let it hit that part of Puerto Rico at all. And it didn't. It just whipped right around it, and then it turned into a hurricane. Like, it was like clockwork.
And I'm watching you when you go down south here to Mexico in the Gulf. You want to take a look at that storm that's pressed in there. It's feeding all this moisture back up.
Yeah, it's huge. Look at
Seeing
this.
that high that's coming across.
You almost have.
See it right there? Right there.
Yeah, you almost
that's
have
another.
You almost have a hurricane.
That's
joining this moisture all the way up and all the way. I mean, it's going from equator to the Arctic, basically. This will fill in because they're seeding it. They're seeding this, so it's filling in. It's sucking that moisture right in where the chemtrails are.
Well, they've been seeding the ocean too with iron. Same thing that they're doing in the sky with aluminum oxide and barium and all these other chemicals. They've been doing for years with ship trails.
Yep, the bunker fuel.
Covering the upper aquatic. And then underneath, they've been feeding ferrous oxide, nanoferrous oxide, just rust, you might say. And look this up. They've been doing it since the 40s. They've been using it to grow fish. They've been trying to control the fish. Now they've got it where they didn't realize that they were going to change the temperature of the Pacific, which they have done. With all this seeding, they're changing the temperatures of the currents, which are changing the motion of currents. Now we have the Gulf coming up the Atlantic coast, where all these hurricanes now are going to follow that warm water up, right up the coast.
Yeah, you can see right here on the anomalies, they have really been laying down the bunker fuel up here off the Kamchatka, Russia, and they've been doing it inside the Bering Sea, off the coast of the Aleutian Islands, and now this huge heat anomaly is starting to drift down towards Southern California. I mean, this anomaly was parked over the Arctic. They're melting the Arctic. They've been wanting to melt it for 100 years, you know.
And you can see, like, over in Mexico, right there above Belize and Yucatan, you can see that tropical storm set up and hang right at the tip of Texas, where, if you remember right, Jim Lee pointed out during that hurricane that hit Houston that they had electrostatically charged that whole system accidentally by a electrostatic seeding in mid-Texas. He caught him doing it, and he said he was going to follow up on it, but he failed to. It was some that Texas seeding company.
Might have been Acquiesce back in around 2012?
You were talking about it one time.
Yeah, if it's around 2012, that's the David Miles that's
going back out in
Australia.
And you were also telling just a minute ago that typhoon tropical storm right now out in the Pacific that's trying to work its way up, right in there. See how when you go down south, it's trying to work it up into the what's the desert there in California?
Yeah,
Baja.
Yeah. See, that one should blow apart from the dust particulates. There's not like a whole lot of.
What's happening is it's holding up a hole, and it's causing it to overlap through Asia up to the Aleutians, and everything is put in hold. We can't get that sweep that normal comes down the Aleutian Islands and down the California coast. It can't happen as long as they got that big buster hanging there with all that warm air.
Exactly.
Warm, higher atmosphere.
And
that warm, higher atmosphere supports more electrons being able to move faster, just like in a tube. A tube cannot work. Electronic tube cannot work unless it has heat. Create where the electrons can move faster. That's how the whole tube works. And those are the elements that they were exploring with Haarp to make their super weapons machine. They could create a plasmatic effect anywhere in the atmosphere. Well, at that time it was anywhere in the ionosphere. Now they can do it anywhere in the atmosphere, you understand? If they can make an area charged, electrically, statically charged, then they can utilize the Haarp technology.
So here's a big question. What can we do about it, if anything? What can you do about it?
What can we do about it? Get back to all the old high voltage TVs. You have to understand, there's a reason they wanted all the high voltage TVs off the market. It interfered with their weapon.
Right. Electrical interference, because they were UHF.
Doesn't anybody realize that overnight they took our TVs? No, because they had high voltage capable of charging your house, your room. If you pulled the ground off that TV set and just left it laying out, you just made a heart buster.
Wow. Well, that's good to know.
If you went out and got all the TVs from the junk piles that had high voltage flybacks in it, and you were able to lift the ground off each one, so you're not charging up the picture tube. You're charging up all the air around you, and just kept it where, to the point that when you were walking through, you weren't part of the ground system, so you wouldn't be going snap, crackle, pop every time you got into this field and discharged it. You would defeat the Haarp technology.
So would that be like an ionizer, or is it just a disturbance?
Yeah.
All right.
What you would be doing would be making up a lower charge, a lower atmospheric charge. And when that lower atmosphere, you can discharge that lower atmospheric charge and discharge the other layers above it. You detonate one charge, you ground out, so you make a like a domino effect. One fire, next one fire, next one fire, all the way out into outer space. All of a sudden, you don't have this ionized atmosphere, and they don't have a tool to work with.
That is like the most awesome information I think I've ever heard.
Billy's thought is let's make a ionized and deionized bubble around certain cities. Let's protect ourselves. Everybody go get these old TV sets and pull the flybacks out, and we're going to power up. We'll protect ourselves.
We need all the tech gurus out there to get on this. Start buying up every old TV you can find, every tube, like even maybe the old ham radios. Would that work?
And it's going to work.
It's going to work.
You have to remember, when you're doing this, you're destroying the transistor age, because it takes such a minor voltage change. We're living in a world of LEDs.
That's why they're
slightest little voltage.
That's why they're putting all the LED
it will
street
destroy
lights.
The LEDs.
Yeah, it's starting to make a lot more sense now, man. I'm glad I got you on here.
Did I hit the right tooth?
Yeah, I think so. My head's just spinning right now thinking about stuff.
Okay, you're welcome, Sky. Okay, well, I'm gonna let you. Yeah, I'll see your keys. I'm gonna let you carry on. I'm gonna have to listen to this for a while.
All right, brother. I'll
see what you talk about me behind my back.
Yeah, you know I won't. Hey, anyway,
okay,
hey,
have
Billy,
a good night, Mike.
Be safe, brother. Yeah, I'll call you.
Well, I want to do it again.
Yeah, I'll call
We
you.
got a lot more to talk about.
Oh yeah, I'll call you maybe once a week till you get tired of me.
Okay, let's make it Friday night when we can do a long one.
Okay, that'll work. That'll work, brother.
Okay.
All right.
Good night, Mike.
See ya. All right, guys. So what do you think about that, man? We have something to think about, something to actually take back a little bit of freedom of our skies. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully some people that knows how maybe to get some of this stuff working, then we get a little head start on what's coming. But yeah, I'm not going to go too long. Want to thank Billy Hayes again, and I know I asked a few hard questions for him, and he was willing to talk about that stuff, and we'll get him on again because he's going to be the most information that we can get. He's worked on the technology, he's built the technology. He built all the antennas there in Haarp. He's put them all up, man. He knows what he's talking about. Like, we couldn't find another guest on the planet that could probably help us anymore. So I want to thank him for coming on here. Much love to him. And make sure everybody gets this shared out. What I'll do is I'll cut out all the beginning crap where I couldn't get the phone working, and then I'll upload it over to Brighton in HD, and I'll cut out all the beginning part where we couldn't get the show going, and we can get that shared out. Thanks out there, Super Chat. Thanks, Matt Bamboo out there, and anybody else that helps shares and get this information out. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call this a show. And then once again, rest in peace, brother, old Marine One. We're going to miss you. And if anybody else out there is subscribed to him, maybe go send his wife a message or, you know, if you want to help him or whatever, help her. That's old Vaughn Marine 1. Anyway, we'll miss you, brother. Anyway, guys, much love. I'm going to play a song called Rise. We know what to do now. Anyway, so here we go. Let's play a song called Rise. Be safe out there. God bless. No fear. We have a plan now. So let's do this. Good night, all.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and push, and push, and push. I was like,